You're wondering how to work out and get your training in when you have back discomfort, back pain, or any sort of injury. Back is a very complicated area. There's still a lot of unknowns with the back in science. I personally, this is my theory, that the back has a lot to do with your mental, where you are mentally. Look at your stress levels, what's going on with you emotionally, mentally. Stressed out, you're more prone to injury. Your immune system is shot, you're more prone to injury. So dial back to the basics. Quality nutrition, antioxidants, lots of water, sleeping, and learning how to breathe under stress. Talking about master your breath, master your mind. Because when you master your breath, you essentially do master your mind. Breath and how much oxygen you can take in from that breath is so important. I don't think people realize. There's a reason why in special operations they are trained to breathe, right? So if you don't know how to breathe before you shoot a gun, you may lose control, right? It's not, it's not rocket science. Number one, I would say you actually want to stay on top of compound exercises, but with a strategy. So instead of doing deadlifts on the floor, if that's something you are already doing, then do rack pulls instead. Perhaps start incorporating some anti-rotational work. Because this is the thing, your back has to work in 3 dimensions: frontal, sagittal, transverse. Frontal is if I divide the body in the front and the back. Exercises that are parallel to the frontal plane are things like lateral raises, adductor, the machine where you sit and you open your legs, you close your legs. Sagittal plane, if I divide my body in right and left. Okay, exercises that are parallel to that sagittal plane. Things like squats, things like lunges. Practically every machine at the gym is a sagittal plane exercise. The only machine at the gym that is a frontal plane is the abduction adductor machine that works your inner and outer thighs. You have the transverse plane, which is rotationary exercises, things like Russian twist, or that machine where you can work your abdominal, work your body in those 3 dimensions, specifically your spine. So do things like plank dips, when you're in a plank and you dip your hips, okay? Doing things like, I'm not a huge fan of Russian twist, but throwing in some bands to train your body in that resistive state. Okay, very important. Something that pulls you laterally. Okay. If you don't want to do that, then you can just simply start doing side planks at home. Just do side planks every day before you go to sleep to start strengthening that part of your spine. So that's the key word, anti-rotational exercise. So just Google anti-rotational exercises. When it comes to training and working around an injury or situation is to incorporate more peripheral stress. There's central stress and peripheral stress. Central stress is essentially where you are stressing your central nervous system. Peripheral stress is the pump. So in other words, bodybuilding exercises. Think of lots of reps, lots of volume, maybe perhaps a little higher in the intensity, but you're purposely training your body to grow muscle. Now, technically, you can grow strength or develop your strength through peripheral stress because everybody is going to respond differently. Some people respond really well to peripheral, some people respond really well to central. Start to incorporate more exercises where there's a lot more pump work. There's a lot more extensive stimuli to your muscles versus like heavy loading on your body. Now, another tip is some people would think that, they're going to have to start working out less. They're going to have to start not going to the gym as often. Contention with that, and the problem with that is that you are going to lose the habit, especially if you don't already have the discipline to go and to see, your workouts or to do your workouts. So I would actually advise, I would rather see somebody go more frequently for less duration than for them to go less frequently and higher duration. The reason being, when you're already exposed to injury or situation, you're already in a vulnerable position. So when you have an extended time frame of working out, you are increasing your chances, in my opinion, of pushing it more than where you want it to go, versus if you are more frequent with your workouts, decreasing your chance. Now, some people would argue and say, if you do it more frequently, technically you're increasing your chance because you're doing it more often. That is not false, and I actually would agree. However, usually people want to get their workout done fast. If you keep that in mind, that if people's thought process is, I want to get in and out and finish this as fast as possible, then it's pretty much safe to assume that having them go more frequently is probably a little smarter than going longer, for the reason being that they are in there to do what they have to do to trigger enough stress to keep their strength or to keep their muscle mass, than for them to try to choose random exercises to just pass time and just do exercises just to do exercises. It will eventually lead to mindlessness and not being conscious of what you're doing, and thus exposing you to more stress than what you need to, and thus possibly pushing the injury or situation past than what it needs to be. Be disciplined and continuing to go consistently, even if you have a situation that's holding you back or an injury or what have you. You can always do something. You can do an arm ergometer cardio workout. You can do the recumbent bike. That is really great for if you have any sort of back pain. Typically, you're going to want to stay away from like stairs, Stairmaster, incline walking, and incline elliptical. But usually bike and light walking and arm ergometer are really great exercises. If you don't want to do that, simply use machines. Machines are great for isolating the muscles and to keep the muscle mass and to keep some sort of trigger on it. And I would say start to slowly incorporate back in functional exercises, things like barbell movements that require a little bit more stability, more on mobility and anti-rotational. Again, anti-rotational exercises for your back and core, your trunk area. Okay, if you strengthen that and your glutes and your hamstrings, you should be fine. In addition to that, I will also say you're going to want to start stretching more. Stretching specifically your hip flexors, your hip extenders, and working on some feet exercises. The reason being that everybody's feet anatomy is different. So some people have a little bit more pronation or supination. So supination is if my foot is like this. And pronation is if it's like this, and flat is flat, normal, right? So when you're super supinated, what happens is that it's going to go up the chain. The foot goes to your knees, goes from your knees to your hips, goes from your knees to your back, and then that's where the problem lies. So if you're having some sort of trunk or back issues, you're going to want to look at your feet. What are your feet doing? Maybe go barefoot. Maybe don't go barefoot. Maybe get some cushiony running shoes. Maybe don't get cushiony running shoes. Maybe you can look into seeing a podiatrist, I think that's what they're called, a foot specialist. I find that there's a lot of benefits to barefoot training. The world is, like in karate, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there is training with bare feet. The reason being is that when you train barefoot, your feet usually will get stronger. On exercises that are going to help you help you avoid staying in the lumbar flexion movement. Because when you sit, you are already in lumbar flexion. I'm already in lumbar flexion because I'm sitting. So if you're focusing on exercises that are going to extend the back, things like bird dogs, okay? Look it up, bird dogs. I'm doing some glute kickback, the machine where you are on the machine and you kick your buttocks back. Okay, you're going to isolate those gluteal muscles. Okay, that's going to help to strengthen your buttocks, your glute medius, and your hip extensors. Okay, you'll notice once you strengthen that and you do some footwork, anti-rotational exercises. Okay, so the hip extension, footwork, anti-rotation exercises, and then the last one, or flexibility and mobility, and then the last one is single leg work. So like perhaps this will be off the machines, but doing like single leg lunges, single leg Bulgarian split squats, and then going from there. Lunges can be a very complex exercise, and if you notice you're losing your balance on lunges and you have back issues or back pain, there is a reason for that, because you are lacking stability in your hips or somewhere here in the trunk of your body.